B'ezrat Hashem, today we're going to have a special class. A class that's very, very needed for Pesach, and it could be also used throughout the year, but mainly we're focusing on Pesach. And the name and the title of the class is How to Kosher the Kitchen for Pesach. Okay? I want to point out, what we're going to speak about today is the way I understand of how to kosher the kitchen. If you believe that your rabbi may hold differently, check out with your rabbi. But what I'm going through is based on different opinions in halakha, and the way I would kosher my kitchen, and the way I would answer the questions that are asked to me on how to kosher the kitchen. Another thing I would like to point out is that this is to kosher the kitchen from hametz to kasher Pesach. When koshering from non-kosher to kosher, there's a little bit of a difference in halakha, and I'm not going to be able to explain the details right now because I'm trying to keep it short and sweet and simple, so it could be very handy and very practical for those who want to kosher their kitchen, that they should watch the video and understand what to do. We will show on the video, after this brief introduction, we will show on the video how to actually kosher the kitchen. We'll move into the kitchen. This is actually taking place live, or at least I'm recording it live, you'll be watching it later. This is taking place live from my own home, and I'm going to show you exactly how to kosher the kitchen from my own kitchen as well. Okay? So let's begin with a little bit of an introduction. A few points. Number one is that when preparing for Pesach, we're trying to get rid of all types of hametz. Most of that is done through cleaning, vacuuming, and just getting all the hametz out of the house, whether by selling or by ridding of it, and finally through bedikat hametz, searching for the hametz, and biur hametz, and the burning of hametz. That's how most and the main part of the hametz is out of the house. However, there's another type of hametz that most people may be unaware of, and that is what we call in halakha bili'ut. And that is that the flavor gets absorbed into the pots or the different utensils that are used through cooking. Give you an example. If you were to take a grill and grill on it some meat, and you barbecue and you have a certain spice in the meat, even though you may clean the grill very, very well and you don't see anything on it, there's no residues on it, the next time you would warm up bread on that grill, you taste in the bread a little bit of a flavor of meat. Why? Because what happens is that the flavor of the meat gets absorbed into the metal and it stays absorbed in it. So there may be residues of fat on top of the grill. Even though you clean that off, what's absorbed and that's swallowed into the pot, in this case the grill, remains there, and the second time and again when you use it again, it comes back out and goes into whatever food you're cooking. So here throughout the year, we're using our kitchen, whether it's the pots, the utensils, whatever it is, we're using it on throughout the year with hametz. And now we clean the house of any hametz. We don't have anything that's hametz in the house, and even something that's remotely hametz we sold, but yet we have hametz that's absorbed into the pots. And when we cook things that are kasher Pesach, like potatoes, let's say, the hametz that's absorbed in the walls will go back into the potatoes, and there's a flavor of hametz. Now we may not be experts in distinguishing this taste of hametz. We don't have to be. Hachamim tell us that there is a flavor that's there. And there's pages upon pages in the Shulchan Aruch explaining how the flavor goes in and how the flavor comes out. We will try to spend a few minutes to explain how the flavor comes out. But this is basically the concept of beli'ot, of koshering the kelim, koshering the utensils, because the flavor that goes in. So let's keep in mind, there's two items here. There's mamashu, there's residue, there's items that are clearly, let's say, that are hametz, and then there's the flavor that's absorbed. Here we're focusing on the flavor. So it goes without saying that before beginning to kosher your kitchen, you must make sure that there's no residue, there's not even any particles that are hametz. Everything is completely gone, and then we can be ready to kosher the utensil. Now, there's an important halakha, and that is, in order for flavor to go out of the utensil, when there's no residue, if flavor come out of the utensil, it'll only come out when it's hot. So one may ask himself, he says, 1 second, I am only using this utensil for cold. So even though the flavor, it absorbed the flavor because we use it when it's hot, I'm only using it for cold. For example, I use the pot to cook with it in it pasta, or I use the pan to bake on it challah. I'm planning to only use this pan as a serving dish for cold items, for cold cuts, taken straight out of my fridge. So what's the problem with that? Why should I have to kosher it? And the answer is there's a halakha. It's halakha is brought down in Shulchan Aruch that items which are forbidden to use because they've absorbed flavor when they're hot, they're forbidden to use even in cold because we're scared you might forget and mix it up. Now, although there are different opinions when it comes to this, there's a slightly few different opinions, but it's a halakha that's brought down that we keep. There are exceptions to the case, and you'll have to speak to your local rabbi. If it's not local, you'll email him or you'll speak to him and ask him when the exceptions apply. But in general, we say, not just recommend, we say that a person has to kosher things even if he's planning to use it only in cold if the flavor went in hot. However, things that did not go in hot, that means you used it for hametz but not hot, then you don't need to go through a whole koshering process. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have regular cups. Most cups in the house are usually glass. Glass is a different story anyway, but most cups are usually glass. So let's say you have a regular cup that you only use for cold, according to the Sephardic custom. Since you only use it for cold, and you don't remember using for hot, and maybe you use it for hot one time, but most of the time you use this for cold, then the proper way of koshering this item is by just rinsing it very well and then using it on Pesach. Assuming that the hametz was not inside the bottle for more than a 24-hour period. So I'll give you 2 examples. Let's take baby bottles or sippy cups. I got a lot of phone calls about sippy cups. Sippy cups, the way what the people normally do is that they put water inside of it. They may warm it up, but will never reach a temperature that's hot called yatzoledbo, where an average person will not be able to drink it. At least that's what I'm familiar with. So therefore, sippy cups, the way to kosher sippy cups, which are made out of plastic, is to rinse it very well. If I know for sure I put hametz in it, but it was only done through cold, so therefore, what I have to do is wash it very well with soap and everything, get all the spots out, and now it's kosher to use for Pesach with obviously kosher Pesach drinks or whatever it is. Take on the other hand a metal can, which had in it cold beer. Beer is hametz, whiskey is hametz, but beer, which was stored there for more than 24-hour period, obviously, since it's in the can. Now, even though it was only used for cold, but since it was stored there for more than 24-hour period, so the flavor went in. And therefore, there's a process of how to kosher that as well. That needs to go through a koshering process. We will not focus on, in this short video, on items that are usually not common. For example, there are many people that just have a set of brand new Pesach dishes. So the items that we're going to focus on are the following. I made a list which I believe most people have to kosher and they don't have another. Obviously, if you have a Pesach kitchen, which you only use for Pesach, that's the best. The best. You don't have to go and worry about all the different koshering processes. You have it ready, kasher Pesach, top quality. Because even in the koshering process, there's always some opinions that may be stringent. So you always want to be yotzeh yedei choba. You want to go according to all opinions. You want to cover all opinions. So the best thing is if you have another Pesach kitchen, that's the best. But most people don't have such luxuries. Most people have only one kitchen. Some may have kitchen for dairy and meat, but still not a Pesach kitchen. So we're focusing now on an average home which has one kosher kitchen, but not for Pesach. They use it throughout the year. So the items I listed over here, some may have other items that would like to know. You could always speak to your rabbi, speak to me. You could email us at the site, and we'll hope we can answer. Some of the items are listed over here that we will go through the video, and they are the following. First, I put in sinks. Okay, sinks do absorb hametz, as we'll explain later on in the video. Countertops in the kitchen, whether made out of formica or marble, I don't believe that countertops are made out of anything other besides formica and marble. There may be exceptions, but this is the most common. Others, ovens. Ovens, I'm talking about ovens that are gas ovens, that are the wall units. Even though they can be movable, but they're pretty much connected to the gas line. I'm not talking about the electric ovens. Metal pots. Some people have certain pots that they can only use, these pots. We'll talk about that. Some cutlery, in case people want to switch over and they want to use the regular cutlery, the forks and knives throughout the year, that they want to use it also on Pesach. Glass cups and bowls, which will be very short, but we'll talk about that as well. Stovetops and the grates where the pots go on. Speak about this. And finally, a small item that I listed here, which is hot water urn. A hot water urn, there is something that we have to know, and we'll talk about that, B'ezrat Hashem, each one in its own way. Now, the koshering process that we're going to speak about are one of three ways. There is other ways of koshering, but we're going to focus only on these three things. Number one is libun. The process of libun is burning something, putting on a high heat, that the hametz inside of it, we hope, gets burnt out. Number two is hagala, where we would take water until the point that starts bubbling, and we insert the item that we want to kosher inside of it. And then with that, the flavor that's absorbed inside of this item comes out, as we'll show in the video. And finally, irui. Irui is the process where water is bubbling in a clearly shown. A clearly shown is any pot that's on the fire. And then after the water is bubbling, we pour directly from the pot onto the surface that we want to kosher. And we will see all of these three methods of koshering in the video on the items that we listed. We hope you enjoy the rest of the videos of the items that we're going to show, which all have a hag kasher v'sameach.